All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. In this video here, I'm showing how, in my opinion, there's basically three kinds of players when they get drafted to a team and what they do once they're with that organization. So in other words, some players get drafted to a good team, one that is like really good, maybe a playoff team, or one that has a lot of potential with good players on it as well. Another option is that you get drafted to a crap team, but you ride it out. Trust the organization to bring in talent. You, being a star player, help develop the younger players to try and build something, build it from scratch. And the third option is the players that they get drafted to a team, good or bad, doesn't matter, but usually it's a bad team. And then they want to circumvent the process and they want to go and hop around on other teams. Now, people are going to come back. I don't even need to say the players' names, but there's going to be certain fans of certain players. They're going to snap back at that and say, oh, well, the organization wasn't doing enough. And, they have the right to do whatever they want. Of course they do. And I have the right to judge them for it. You know what I'm saying? To include a handicap for them doing it. Because unlike people like J.J. Redick, and there's been other fools on TV I've heard too, all championships are not created equal. They're not, okay? Sometimes, whether it be an upset, or maybe you beat a team that star player was like injured or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be the finals. It could be whatever. But no, not all championships are created equal. There could be a controversial call. There's a lot of factors to go into that. But I do believe that not all championships are created equal. There's the people that have the teams that have the better runs, beating better competition, and maybe your team wasn't that great. There's so many factors that would go into that. But one championship run is not the same as another. That's for damn sure. Just the last two championships, Boston in 24 and Denver in 23. I didn't think either one of them had impressive championship runs at all. I mean, Boston played what? I think they avoided, both teams didn't play a top 3 seed. I think that's right. So to me, that's not really that impressive. But a team like, the 95 Houston Rockets, who won the championship as a 6 seed, that's impressive. Or even not a championship run, but getting to the finals like the 81 when the Rockets got all the way to the finals with a 40-42 team. Now that is impressive. Beating up on a bunch of teams that are, less than 50 wins and all that, and you're, clearly the best team. No, that's not that impressive. Hell, even the 91 Bulls, their run wasn't that super impressive. First 2 rounds are pretty easy. I mean, the Pistons, because of their history and being the 3-time defending champions, that one, I thought it was going to be more of a fight than it was, but it was obvious that the Bulls, they were just on the up and up. I mean, they were on the ascension. It was just so obvious, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, B.J. Armstrong, they were definitely ready for the next step in their careers. And the Pistons, some of their peripheral players had gotten a little older, but more to the point was neutering them with flagrant fouls. That changed everything. But anyway, I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to talk about some players and what happened to them when they got drafted and how they handled it and what they did about it. Here you go. So John Havlicek, he's a guy, probably a top 30 all-time player. Well, he gets drafted to a team that's 60-20, and they're the champs. In fact, they're the 4-time champs. But what does Havlicek do? He comes in when Bill Sharman had just left, and Bob Cousy's last year was Havlicek's first year. So it was definitely a changing of the guard. And they kept winning. They won another 4 championships with Havlicek. So what he did was he stayed with Boston, okay? Won those championships. He won 6 out of 7 seasons with Bill Russell. He won championships. But after Russell left, the team, they kind of fell apart, even though they did reload with players like JoJo White and Dave Cowens. John Havlicek did not go to Red Auerbach and demand a trade. He did not say, I want out of here. This sucks. You know what I mean? Our team's not that good. No, he stayed. And before you say, well, players back then just didn't go, the hell they didn't. And I'll show you. The hell they didn't force trades, basically make teams, trade you out of there because they want to go somewhere else. The hell they didn't. All right. Dwayne Wade. Now he goes to a team that was only 25-57. In Wade's rookie year in 2004, they make the playoffs, which that's pretty good. They got like Caron Butler, Lamar Odom. Actually, a decent little nucleus. I mean, I don't think they were ever going to win like a championship or anything like that, but not terrible. Something to build on anyway. But in year 2, Wade gets Shaq. And Shaq's there for 3 years. They win a championship. But then Shaq requests to be traded. He wants out. He goes to Phoenix. Okay? Fine. Wade stays on Miami until the 2010 season. Well, he stayed on Miami the whole time. But in the 2010 off season, Chris Bosh signs with Miami. And then instead of trying to talk LeBron out of, don't come here, that's going to upset the balance of the league and the East, people are going to go crazy about that. We're never going to hear the end of it. They're going to kill us in the media for this. They didn't care. They were tired of watching Kobe win championships. That's what Dwayne Wade said. So he allowed that to happen. So for me, when I rank players, I definitely use a handicap. And in Dwayne Wade's case, instead of a red X, I just give him 1 slash mark because he allowed that to happen. And yeah, he won 2 championships out of it. Great. They had 3 of the top probably 5 players in the whole conference on one team. But he allowed that to happen. He didn't fight it. He didn't, he was trying to talk LeBron James into coming. So anyway, when I rank players, Dwayne Wade was like a borderline top 25. Nope. I pushed him out a spot or 2. I'd have to go back and look exactly what it was. And the reason why was because of that right there. Teaming up, upsetting the balance. You did not trust the front office. They came through for you already. They got you Shaq. You know what I mean? They got you Shaq. Tail end of his prime, maybe just the beginning of outside of his prime, Shaq. And you won a championship with it. Hell, in 2005, they won, 59 games, and then they won it in 2006. So they did not trust that the front office, whatever, he wanted to just fast forward it or thought, it'd be fun if the 3 of us were on the same team. Whatever the reason why, it was not cool, and it set a precedent that has been, whacked ever since. Now, them and other people are going to blame it on the Boston Big 3. But that's not what happened. Those guys got traded. And it was not a request as far as I know. They just basically didn't deny it. That they had like the trade clause or whatever. They accepted the trade. But they did not go and say, I want out of here. I know Ray Allen didn't for sure. He did not do that. Okay. Dirk Nowitzki. Now he's pretty cut and dry here. Nowitzki's team had not a very good record, but they did, his rookie year, Michael Finley and Steve Nash are on the team. And Michael Finley, I think he was an all-star 3 of the following 4 seasons after that. He's a good player. And of course, Steve Nash on the same team. Nowitzki stayed with Dallas his whole career. So his 1 ring, to me, is, I wouldn't say more impressive than Wade's 3 rings, but it's pretty close. I'll say that. I would say that Nowitzki's 1 ring is matches Wade's first ring. You know what I'm saying? And then the other two, these were manufactured rings by circumventing the process. And you must hold these guys accountable. You must hold it against them. I do. I don't just say, oh, you can do whatever you want. It's a free market out there. Player empowerment, whatever. It's not classy. It's not cool. It's not etiquette. You know what I mean? Morally speaking, it's just not the right thing to do. All right. Bob Cousy. Now, Bob Cousy came to a team that was only 22-46. His rookie year, he had Hall of Famer Ed Macauley. Now, if you guys don't know who he is, Ed Macauley was he was the best center in the NBA, Cousy's first 3 seasons. Cousy's second year, he has Bill Sharman on his team, top 75 player. And they can't even make it to the finals. That's why I just laugh when people say, oh, well, Russell's team was stacked. It's like, well, that's who they had, except for Macauley was gone and they drafted Russell. That's what the team was, and they won the championship immediately. But this guy, Ed Macauley, was the best center in the NBA. He was 3-time first team All-NBA. Period. Go look it up. And then I think in the 4th year, he was second team. Okay, Bob Cousy stayed his whole career. I think he did come back when he was like 40, tried to play like 6 games or something. That doesn't count. And anyway, he won 6 championships. Of course, he did not request a trade. I know the guys back then didn't have a whole lot of say-so anyway, but that's what happened there. Charles Barkley. He comes to a team that's 58-24 with 4 Hall of Famers on it. Moses Malone, Maurice Cheeks, Bobby Jones, and Dr. J. Now, Dr. J is on his way out. In fact, I think he played only Barkley's rookie year and then 2 more years, and Dr. J was done. But Barkley, the team was pretty good in the beginning, and then as these guys aged out, Moses Malone left, and they weren't as good. But Barkley got traded to Phoenix in 92, and he told them, he's like, hey, you guys might as well trade me, to start rebuilding. It's like, I'm not going to be able to win it with just me and what we have now. So to me, he was actually trying to help the team out. That is not the same thing. So he would have probably went to whatever team. He was just saying, to help you guys along, just trade me. But anyway, so he goes to Phoenix, wins the MVP, yada, yada. And then Phoenix trades him in 97 to Houston. But again, he's, past his prime. I don't even count this stuff once you're way past your prime. And that's different. You can't just stick to a certain age. It's different for each kind of player. But anyway, so Barkley did not cheat the system or anything like that. John Stockton and Karl Malone. Now, they were both drafted to basically like a playoff team. They had Thurl Bailey and Darrell Griffith. I think they had Ricky Green, Mark Eaton. A decent team, pretty good team. Adrian Dantley, I think, was on there too. Well, anyway, John Stockton didn't even start, was the permanent starting point guard until year 4. And anyway, him and Karl Malone both stuck through the whole way through. And they never really drafted anybody that was a high impact player, like an all-star, even all-star level player. I can't remember a single guy. The whole 90s, basically, even the very late 80s and the whole 90s. They did trade to get Jeff Hornacek. That was a good move and a smart move that helped them out. But they just weren't drafting real good. They they missed a lot. It happens. Because they were always a high draft pick because they were always, winning 52, 56, 54, 58 games year in, year out. But they weren't good enough to win a championship, so they could never get that high draft pick. But anyway, both players stayed with Utah their entire careers, except for Karl Malone. His very last season went to the Lakers. And again, I don't count that stuff. That means nothing. All right, Nikola Jokic. He went to a 30-52 team. The best player on his team was Danilo Gallinari, and he was all right, whatever. They won a championship. Jokic stayed in Denver, won a championship, like Dirk Nowitzki. That means something. It really does. Giannis, He was a young player. He gets drafted to a 15-67 team. That's how bad that team was. He stayed with Milwaukee the whole way through. Now, them trading Damian Lillard, or trading for Damian Lillard, again, it's not the same thing as a free agent signing. It's a trade. Now Damian Lillard was maybe going to go to Miami. So to me, it didn't sound like Damian Lillard could pick his destination if he wanted to, like other people do. He didn't do that. So anyway, Giannis stayed with Milwaukee. His championship means just as much as Jokic, just as much as Dirk Nowitzki's. But again, like I said, Dwayne Wade's 3 rings are not the same for a player who stayed with it and trusted upper management and didn't influence or circumvent or fast forward the process. That's bullshit. All right. Elgin Baylor. He gets drafted to a team that's 19-53. They got some okay players, whatever. Well, Elgin Baylor never won a championship, but he spent his entire career with the Lakers. Never, forced a trade or demanded a trade, nothing like that. David Robinson, same thing. He's on a 21-61 team. Now, they do get some decent players pretty early on, like Willie Anderson, Sean Elliott, Rod Strickland. So he did have a decent little team at first, but he spent his entire career with San Antonio. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Same thing with Bob Pettit, 21-51 team. That was in 55. In his 4th season, they're winning a championship. His one championship definitely means, the same as these other guys. Same with David Robinson. He won 2 with San Antonio. To me, that means as much as Dwayne Wade's 3. That's the way that I grade it. David Robinson's 2 championships weights the same as Dwayne Wade's 3. For me, that's how I do that. Okay. Kevin Durant. Lovely Kevin Durant. 20-62 team. Now, he got guys right away. His 2nd year, he got Russell Westbrook. The next year, he got Serge Ibaka, James Harden. So they had an excellent young team right away. He got drafted in 08, and I think Westbrook was 09. Harden's Ibaka was 2010. So by Durant's 5th year, he's in the finals with all that young talent. And they got beat, but that's okay. If he would have stuck with it, it would have meant so much more to Durant's career. But he screwed it. And he screwed the pooch. He left OKC in 2016. He goes to Golden State. Then when that didn't work out, he got in an argument, whatever that was. He then goes to New Jersey. Then that didn't work out. He goes to Phoenix. But in each time, he's trying to build some kind of a super team. He didn't just go to a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't just go to Houston or something like that. No. He went to the what he thought was going to be the premier teams, joining Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, all that business. So for me, he gets a big red X. So both the championships that Durant won is basically like winning one or maybe even none because of the way he did it. Bullshit. Kevin Garnett, 21-61 team he was drafted to. He took no shortcuts. He had players on his team like Tom Gugliotta, Stephon Marbury, Terrell Brandon. Not bad, but you're not going to compete against the powerhouses of the West in the late 90s, early 2000s. But he rode it out. He was on that team for, 11 seasons before finally he accepted a trade to Boston and, joined Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, all that. But number one, these guys were not exactly in the heart of their prime, especially Ray Allen. I think he was 32 maybe, and I think Garnett was 31. I don't know. They were definitely in their 30s, though. I know that much. But he didn't leave Boston and try to go to even greener pastures. You know what I'm saying? And that, again, that was through trades, not close to the same thing. He didn't get up on the horn and say, hey, Ray Allen, talk to Seattle. Let's force a trade. We want to go play with Paul Pierce in Boston. That's just not what happened. Now, that may have formed a big three that led to a championship that in other players' minds, they thought, oh, we could do that too. Maybe inadvertently that started this. That's possible. But that was not the same thing as intentionally being a free agent, signing with another team, circumventing the process, giving a big middle finger to the city that you were just playing for. You know what I'm saying? Okay. George Mikan, he won the title his first year. He had players like Jim Pollard, and later on, his second year, 30, he just had a bunch of Hall of Famers. But he spent his short career with Minneapolis. Not really much to talk about there. Oscar Robertson, he went to a 19-56 team. They were junk. He stayed with Cincinnati for a decade. He got traded to Milwaukee in 1970, but that was just Cincinnati trying to make their team better. That's all that was. And anyway, they did win a championship in 71. He got hooked up with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but again, not the same thing. He didn't force the trade. It wasn't anything like that. Steph Curry, he goes to a 29-53 team, and he had David Lee and Monty Ellis on his team. Not bad players, actually. And then later on, in a couple years, he gets Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Andrew Bogut, and they start winning, yada, yada. Curry was fine in 2015, 2016. He was fine. No problem. But what happened in going into the 2017 season by him being okay with Durant coming there? In fact, I heard that they asked Durant to join them, which is insane. He never should have did that. He should have, said, no, we can't do this. This is ridiculous. We're going to destroy OKC, who we barely beat. But, and then now we're going to have Kevin Durant. It's going to be so unfair. And sure enough, it was. They went for it and all that. That's why Curry gets a slash for me. And people act like Curry is just 4 straight up championships. No way. I treat Curry as if he got 3 championships. Even though he had 2 without Durant, those 2 with him is equal to 1 in my book. That's just how I do it. You don't have to agree. That's fine. But I think that's bullshit. And they should be held accountable. And the guys that didn't do this, it should count more. It should matter more. Because it does change things. People like to use championships as a barometer of ranking players. So make sure then that you use some kind of a handicap system. All right. Moses Malone. Moses Malone went to Houston after the ABA, a short little stint there. They were a 40-42 team. They had Calvin Murphy, who was a Hall of Famer somehow. Rudy Tomjanovich, he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but a really nice player. So you had a couple of pretty good players in there, and they did okay, Houston. I'm pretty sure Moses did want to trade out of Philly, though, in 1986, goes to Washington. And anyway, so he did, and then 2 years later, he signed with Atlanta to go join Dominique Wilkins. And I don't know if he was trying to form a super team, but I don't know. And in 83, when he got traded to Philly, now he didn't force a trade as far as I know, but that clearly made it a super team. Now, I don't hold it against Moses, but if somebody else does, I'd be fine with that. You know what I mean? I know they did make it an unbeatable super team. The 83 76ers were virtually unbeatable that year. No one was going to beat them. Jerry West, he was 25-50 on the team, and that's with Elgin Baylor. That just shows you it was tough sledding. He spent his whole career with the Lakers. That's that. Now, there's nothing he could have done about Wilt Chamberlain coming there. He couldn't have said, no. It was out of his hands. Back then, players had no kind of empowerment. Dr. J, he went to Philly. He spent his whole career with Philly. Again, Moses Malone comes to Philly. There's nothing Dr. J can do about it. You know what I'm saying? He could throw a fit, whatever. It doesn't matter. He's just going to have to find a way to live with it. LeBron James, he comes to a team that's 17-65. But the team does have some young talent, but the young talent didn't stay. They had a Jeff McInnes, Ricky Davis, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Carlos Boozer. With LeBron James, they could have formed a nice young little nucleus here, maybe done something with it. But next thing you know, Ricky Davis is in Boston, Carlos Boozer's in, where'd he go? was it Utah? All this stuff's going on, whatever. And then they bring in all these other players, in a couple of years. But anyway, LeBron stayed and he honored his rookie contract, like you have to, but he re-signed with Cleveland. I was all on board with LeBron James. Absolutely. I was like, oh man, I was hoping in either 09 or 10 that he would have made it to the finals to play Kobe. I was like, oh man, he didn't make it to play Kobe. I was not rooting against the guy at all. And then he had to go and do it. The decision. Oh, the cringeworthy, BS fest that was. How much more can you toot your own horn ego show that was. And LeBron James, 2 championships in Miami, to me, is worth 1. That's my opinion. Don't have to agree. And then he goes to Cleveland and does it all over again. Now, I would have been okay with it if he would have went back to Cleveland. He would have stayed there the whole time. And he did not tell Cleveland, I want Kevin Love. I'm not signing until you get Kevin Love. I would have been totally fine with it. Might have even been willing to overlook what he did in Miami. If it was just a 4-year thing, whatever, but he came back to Cleveland, finished his career, I would have looked at LeBron in a whole different light. But that's not what he did. He demanded they get Kevin Love. Why not? Kevin Love was number 2 in PER. I think he was top 3 or 4 in value over replacement. He's putting up Charles Barkley kind of numbers. And before some fool comments, oh, they're empty stats. What's a not empty stat? You know what I'm saying? Because the team didn't win, what are they supposed to do? Not score? Not rebound? What do you want them to do? You know what I mean? He didn't exactly have a star-studded lineup. In fact, I think Kevin Love in 2014's best teammate was like Corey Brewer. So please, with that, I don't even want to hear it. That never made sense to me at all. It was stupid. I mean, sure, guys will have a few more points if they're the main guy or whatever. You could say that for LeBron James, too, when he was on Cleveland. Empty stats. You know what I mean? Same thing. Stupid. But anyway, then he goes to L.A., and I don't think he was necessarily looking to, form a super team, but he knew the Lakers had more resources and nobody would come to Cleveland. I mean, they're signing George Hill, Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, all these has-been, Kyle Korver, every has-been you can think of. They're signing all these guys, but they're not getting any, prime, really good players from Cleveland. And I'm sure that was part of it. And he always, in his mind, wanted to go to the Lakers anyway. But but he knew the Lakers had more resources, a way more attractive place to go. It was going to be a lot easier to get players to come there. And sure enough, he waited 1 year to get a top 5 player in the NBA come sign with him. Nice, huh? Along with other really good role players, too. But anyway, so LeBron James, to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say he won 2, and one of them was the bubble. I would definitely say it was somewhere between 2 to 3 championships when I'm measuring it up against other players doing a ranking system. That's what I'm saying. All right, Shaquille O'Neal. He went to a 21-61 team, and they weren't good at all. His rookie year, I mean, they had Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott. They were okay. Got Penny his second year, and their fortunes definitely turned around with those 2 players. I mean, it put the franchise in the finals just in a couple years. And he signed with the Lakers, so that was a free agent move. Now, he was leaving a team that won 60 games, but he knew that the Lakers had resources, okay? And then he got traded to Miami, which he wanted out anyway. And then he wanted to get out of Miami and forced to trade to Phoenix, forced to trade to Cleveland. So he's a team hopper as well. Now, I don't hold the 3 in LA, I pretty much are okay with it, but maybe the one in Miami I kind of hold against them a little bit. But it's not just really championships. Maybe I'm just presenting this wrong. It's just that I don't give them the same regard as guys that stuck with one team. And it's like you ride it out, whatever happens, happens. If you get scrubs your whole career, then that was the luck of the draw. If you got lucky like a Magic Johnson and got drafted to a great team, then that was the luck of the draw. Either way. But it's up to us to decipher that and take that into account and not just count rings. Well, he's got 5 championships. He's only got 2. Well, realize that it was easier when you have a stacked team versus a team that isn't stacked. So it's up to us to realize that and not just push our biases through. And I know it's hard, but anyway, Tim Duncan, he was on. He got drafted to San Antonio. Now Robinson was hurt in '97, so their record they only won like 20 games because he was out all year. But the year before, they were 59-23. Duncan is coming to a really good team, but Duncan stayed in San Antonio. So to me, his championships are all legit. Period. That's just what it was. There was nobody joining. All his players got drafted. The real meaningful players, they got drafted. Sure, they signed a plethora of other role players. Sure, they did, but hardly the same thing. Okay. Keem Olajuwon, he goes to a 29-53 team. They already had Ralph Sampson, but they were 29-53 with Ralph Sampson. He spent his whole career with Houston, I think, except his last season, which, again, I don't count that stuff. But Olajuwon's 2 championships, mean as much as Dwayne Wade's 3. Period. In my mind, that's exactly how that is. All right, Wilt Chamberlain. Here's another guy. He goes to a 32-40 team, but they was really good. I mean, they had Paul Arizin, top 75 player. Tom Gola, Hall of Famer. Guy Rogers, Hall of Famer. Wilt goes to a good team, a really good team, actually. And he played on the team. They didn't win, whatever. He forces a trade back to Philly when they moved to San Francisco the next year. So now he's on the 76ers. He already forced one trade. He played with them for 3.5 seasons. Then he forces another trade to the Lakers in 68. And again, that is team hopping. So Wilt's 4 championships should be lower than that, but not even just his championships, just the player in general. Like if I was going to rank him like number 5, well, he's now at least number 6, if not 7, because of what he did, because he didn't stay and let the process play out. Larry Bird, 29-53. Now, again, Larry Bird, his next year, they won what, like 60 games or 61 games or whatever it was, and I've heard a lot of people say, it's like, man, he improved them 32 games. But, I mean, come on. They had Dave Cowens, Nate Archibald, Cedric Maxwell. They had a good team. Before, they just weren't able to put it together. There were some injuries, whatever. But then by year 2, here comes McHale and Parrish, yada, yada, yada. But Bird stayed with Boston the whole way through. Whatever they did, they did. So you got to just treat Larry Bird straight up. Kareem, he goes to Milwaukee, a 27-55 team. Now, you can look at that because their win total basically doubled the next year. But it wasn't just Kareem getting drafted. They also drafted Hall of Famer Bob Dandridge. And they had some other pretty, decent, serviceable players. And in his second year, here comes Oscar Robertson. Nice. So the problem with Kareem is he demanded a trade to either the Lakers or the Knicks, but he really wanted to go back to the Lakers where he played, for UCLA. And they accommodated him. They traded. Now, granted, he did stay with the Lakers because he was now where he wanted to be, whatever. But because he forced that trade, I've always kind of, held a little bit against him for that. That's why I give him the half an X. Like if I wanted to rank him number 4, he's now number 5. In fact, that's exactly what I did. I'm sorry, but you're now on a team with more resources, a more attractive draw. That's what it's all about. Especially from, say, like the 80s on or whatever. These certain teams are more attractive. Why do you think certain teams win? The really large cities always win. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say, at least in the NBA. Maybe not in all sports, but in the NBA for sure. All right, I know you can call a random here and there. Oh, what about Denver? What about Milwaukee? I know, once in a while, sure. But for the most part, that's how it goes. And yeah, I know about San Antonio, but that's in Texas, warm weather, no state income tax. It is attractive, believe it or not. All right. Kobe Bryant, 53 in 2019, but at the same time he's drafted, here comes Shaquille O'Neal. And they combined, one of the best tandems of all time. Maybe the best, but certainly one of them. And anyway, he stays there his entire career. He was actually trying to force Shaq out of there because he wanted to be the man. The opposite of forming a super team. He wanted to form an unsuper team. Kind of funny, actually. But then eventually, he needed help. You know what I mean? But he stayed with the Lakers. And I know if you hate Kobe, you can bring up, he was saying on a radio show that he wanted to get out of there. But that was really probably just a tactic. He was never going to leave the Lakers. I doubt it anyway. But I don't know. Maybe he was. We'll never know the truth. Magic Johnson, exact same thing as Kobe. He gets drafted to a team with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on it. They're already a strong playoff team with a top 5 all-time player on it. So Magic got really lucky. But he spent his whole career with L.A. because they were never bad under Magic's watch. Never. Never bad under Magic's watch. That's incredible. Kind of like Tim Duncan. Never bad under his watch either. Because they had other pieces. Duncan goes to a team with Robinson. Kobe goes to a team with Shaq. Magic goes to a team with Kareem. Must be nice. Okay, Bill Russell, obviously he got drafted by Boston. He had no options if he wanted to go anywhere anyway. But when he got drafted, like I said, he had Bob Cousy, Bill Sharman, McCauley was gone, and Tom Heinsohn was also a rookie with Russell. And those 4, along with Sam Jones the next year, would form the greatest dynasty in North American sports, along with Havlicek later on. Those were the critical guys. Any other peripheral Hall of Famer like Frank Ramsey, Casey Jones, they didn't need them. They got in there strictly because they were on a bunch of championship teams. Michael Jordan was on a 27 and 55 team. He got drafted to a team that had nobody ever made an all-star team. Nobody ever made an all-NBA. Nobody ever made any all-league or all-star of any sorts. Now, you could go down the roster and you could say, Artis Gilmore, 39-year-old Artis Gilmore was on that team, or George Gervin in his last year coming off the bench. I mean, sure, go ahead. You can say that junk. But nobody playing any meaningful minutes was anything until probably 1989. That was Jordan's fifth season. His 5th season in 89. Now, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant are starters. I mean, okay, maybe Oakley, I guess, I think he made one all-star team or something. He was serviceable, but in that stacked East, it just wasn't enough. And it's not like Oakley was like some high end or something. He was a good player, and far from great. He wasn't very good, nothing like that. But Michael Jordan stayed in Chicago his whole career. Even when he was losing and, he could have forced a trade, whatever. Even when he retired, after he retired, he could have went to another team, signed with anybody he wanted to. He didn't. He didn't do that. He came right back to the Bulls and wrote it out for the rest of 95 and the whole three-peat. So again, players like that need to be recognized as doing something a little more special than the team hoppers. That's all I'm saying. I know this video is running kind of long, so I'm going to end it. The whole crux of the video is these players with the red marks on their names, you should use it, hold them accountable on some level. Some of these guys are more guilty than others, yes. But they did not just let the process play out and whatever happened, happened. That's just not what they did. So it never sat right with me. And you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. You don't have to, do some dumb comment and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. What's a player supposed to do? Fine, don't agree. I don't care. But that's the way I see it. It's just a thing about honor, integrity, competitive balance. All those things come into play. And if all you're doing is, I just want to win a championship so I can count my rings, you've cheapened your rings now. Your rings are now cheap. Kevin Durant's got some Cracker Jack box rings. So anyway, I know it's a super long video. Man, I did not mean for this to happen. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. And that's it for now.